A very good afternoon from the sports desk once again. The Formula E-Prix main race is now just 2 hours and 18 minutes away. All 11 teams have completed qualifying, and it's Frenchman Sacha Fenestras driving for the Nissan team in pole position. The Cape Town leg of the series is about more than just motorsport, though, as it aims to educate the public about e-mobility and its benefits. Joining me once again is eNCA Sport Editor Vata Ngobeni. Good afternoon once again, Vata. So, of course, we are now just a couple of hours away, 2 hours and 17 minutes away from the main race. We do now know who's where on the grid. Sacha Fenestras for Nissan, Team Nissan is the man that is going to be moving from the front. But we are not only focusing on the action that is on the street track. We are also focusing on e-mobility, the benefits of it, it being the future of travel, not just around the world, but even right here in South Africa. The same South Africa that is struggling with load shedding. But apart from e-mobility as well, it is tourism that we are focusing on. This is what can grow and build and strengthen South African tourism. Show the world, show FIA that this is where you want to bring Formula One, because this is a country that knows how to host Cricket World Cups, Rugby World Cups, and of course, as 2010 showed, Football World Cups.
Yes, good afternoon, Morena. You talk about Nissan being in pole position. Well, Cape Town is actually in pole position now as the premium sports tourism destination. And not to waste any time, Morena, let me speak to TourVest Destinations Manager, Martin Vist, just on what Cape Town offers as a tourism destination, so does South Africa. And obviously, we will also look at other tourism destinations across the world that TourVest is involved in with South Africa. Martin, we've spoken about pole position already for this afternoon's race, but it seems as if Cape Town is in pole position when it comes to sports tourism.
Yeah, and sports tourism is very important in the development of the overall tourism industry in South Africa, because it does really three things for your tourism industry. Firstly, because of the coverage in TV globally, it gives exposure to our beautiful destination in South Africa. Secondly, people travel here, so there's immediate spend within the country. And last but not least, people that come here just for the sport events will at some point come back and explore our total country and the total beauty that the country has to offer. So they become tourists and not only sports tourism tourists. So sports tourism is critical. Cape Town has everything that it needs. It's got a stable infrastructure, it's got accommodation, it's got the ability to create infrastructure such as this racetrack, and you would have seen that is not that easy to create. It's got an airport, it's got international connectivity, it's got a car rental industry, so it's got all the pieces that it needs in order to create a tourism environment. And then it becomes a catalyst for the country as a whole, and I think that's the important part.
You speak about South Africa, about Cape Town being the catalyst for the country as a whole. You know, we've got obviously the Cricket World Cup at the moment, we've got the ice hockey happening, we've got the Volvo Ocean Race, premium this weekend, and I think for the next few months will be the Formula E. But then there's a Simola Hill Climb. You know, not too many people know about that. We've got the inbound tours for the Springboks happening, and the big one will be the Rugby World Cup. The focus being on South Africa at the moment with the Formula E, the Simola Hill Climb, and the Springboks playing those two matches here prior to them going to London to play the All Blacks.
Correct.
And the Rugby World Cup.
Yes.
Do you feel as if South Africa is now become the focal point when it comes to sports tourism and tourism as a whole?
Yes, of course. I mean, you can always have a discussion that this started really in 2010 when we hosted the FIFA World Cup, the premier tourism event when it comes to sports tourism. I mean, Simola Hill Climb is largely a very domestic event, but it is a phenomenal event, and I can only encourage South Africans to travel there to have a look at it. But let's not forget that we have marathons that are really world-renowned. The Cape Town Marathon coming up, and the Cape Town Marathon will gain in global importance. I think the Comrades Marathon is most probably the world's best-known ultra-marathon. So South Africa has got lots of sports assets that have the ability to create South Africa as a sports destination. But let's not forget, it's an overall catalyst topic and not purely sports tourism. And yes, you're right. I mean, South Africans will travel to France in their numbers. SA Rugby Travel will host a lot of people going there. And we all hope that the Springboks will be there and defend their crown. Let's not forget that we need to warm up the All Blacks just before that, and we'll do it well, I have no doubt.
Just talking about that, how important does the sports aspect become to tourism, especially when you speak about an asset like the Springboks? You know, they are the reigning world champions. They speak to markets across the globe. How important are those assets and sport to the greater, tourism fraternity?
Very much so, because of course in a global context you compete for traveller, you compete for tourist against many destinations. You compete against East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania in particular. We compete against South American destinations, we compete against North American destinations. And you have to find a key differentiator, a key selling point for our destination. And assets such as Formula E now, or E-Prix rather, and the Springboks in South Africa, and a successful women's cricket team, all of those type of assets allow us to differentiate ourselves against our competitors. And that is, after all, in any marketing course they'll teach you need a differentiator to attract the customer that has choice. And the customers in this world have choice where they travel to, and those type of assets will narrow down their choices.
And then what do events like this, global events like the E-Prix, a Cricket World Cup, Netball World Cup, and in as much as the World Cup, Rugby World Cup is in France, what do they do for the tourism industry?
At the end of the day, they put South Africa out in the public domain. You know, again, it comes back to a consumer has so much choice of what to do with their spare time and with their holidays. And you want to hone the consumer's mind to consider South Africa as a destination, and as a consequence, put it in the smaller choices and then come travel here. And it's very, very important to have that type of exposure in the global media, in the global social media, in the tour operator offerings in order to get the consumer to travel here. Because